With that, Gideon took his 32,000 troops and camped south of the valley where the Midianites were. The Lord said, "You have too many men here. If I give you victory over the Midianites now, Israel will say that they did it in their own power. Talk to the men. Tell them that anyone who's afraid can go home." Gideon talked to his troops. 22,000 men left and went home. Gideon only had 10,000 that stayed with him. The Lord said, "There are still too many men. Take them down to the water. Watch how they drank." Gideon noticed that some of the men stooped down and reached down with their hands and brought the water and drank it that way. Others knelt down and put their face next to the water and drank. The Lord said, "Separate those men out that use their hands to drink." There were only 300 men that did that. The Lord said, "Send the rest home. I will use those 300 men to bring you victory." He sent the rest home, and then he stood on the hills and looked down at the valley where the Midianites were. Gideon said it was like a swarm of locusts covering the valley. He said the camels were like the sands of the sea. The Lord said to Gideon, "Go down into the valley, into the camp of the Midianites, and listen to what they're saying. If you are afraid, take your servant with you." So that evening, Gideon and his servant went down into the valley and on into the Midianite camp. He heard a man say to his friend, "I had a dream. In my dream, I saw a barley loaf roll into our camp. It hit one of the tents and destroyed it." The friend said, "I know what that dream means. That barley loaf is the sword of Gideon, the Israelites. Their God has given us to them." When Gideon heard this, he worshiped the Lord. He went back to his camp, said, "Get up. The Lord has given us the Midianites." He divided his men into 3 groups, 3 companies of 100 men. He gave each man a jar with a lantern inside and a trumpet. He said, "Now, all of you watch me. Do what the company that I'm with does. Whether we break the pitcher, hold up the torch, blow the trumpet, or to say, 'The sword of the Lord and Gideon,' do what we do." He then placed the three companies around the Midianite camp. Then they all came into the edge of the camp. And then the company that was with Gideon broke the jar, held up the torch, and shouted, "The sword of the Lord and Gideon." And the other 2 companies did the same thing. The Midianites woke up and heard this and started to run, yelling. When they did this, all 3 companies of men blew their trumpets. And with that, the Midianites pulled out their swords and started killing one another. Gideon sent runners to tell the rest of the Israelites to come. And they chased the Midianites all the way back towards their own home country, killing them as they went. And from that day, the Midianites never came back to the land of Israel. They went to Gideon and said, "Be our king." Gideon said, "No, I will not be your king, and neither will any of my sons." Gideon went back home, lived in peace. And God brought peace to the land of Israel that lasted for 40 years.